Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I've got the tough slot right after lunch, right after Grab Taxi. Amazing business. Very proud of Anthony and the team. Today I'm going to be talking about Kartuku. Kartuku is a financial technology company. We focus on specifically payment technology, and we're really about building a network to connect the last mile, okay, to the banks, to other financial services. And today I'm just going to give a quick background first on some data about Kartuku. We've been growing very rapidly. We're the largest independent network in Indonesia. We are operating, we're managing more than 165,000 terminal assets today, and we're looking to have pretty aggressive growth next year. We're processing more than 50 million transactions. What we've really managed to pioneer in the market has been shared infrastructure. So what we've really seen, and maybe I'll skip straight into it, with a whole ecosystem of support, we're trying to solve this problem. This problem of extremely inefficient CapEx, and there's a lot of investment being made behind every single one of these cashiers, and this isn't a problem unique to Indonesia. You can even see that problem here today in Singapore. So this is something where, due to a lot of proprietary software, due to a lot of advancement, a lot of requirements for loyalty programs, for installment programs to attract consumers such as yourselves, to be able to transact and to be able to be, to entice you to use your cards more often with each of your banks, your credit cards, your debit cards. These kinds of promotions are very key, whether it's an installment program to help finance electronic purchases, such as a new mobile phone. In Indonesia, your average Indonesian consumer will probably change their mobile phone every 6 to 12 months. On top of that, and they'll probably spend about a 1 month worth of wage on a mobile phone. So a lot of new potential customers for out there media as well. But these are problems that, you know, the banks are spending a lot of money here. And the merchants don't exactly appreciate this. The merchants want access to these promotions. They want these programs. They want the bank to be able to drive consumers to them because different banks have different customer bases, different demographics that they can attract, different demographics they can push to their stores. So it's very strategic for a merchant to work with many of these banks. The problem is not only do you have this physical space nightmare in each of the stores, you have the same, you have the back office space nightmare of reconciling between 20 different banks on 20 different formats, and nothing adds up. And bottom line, the merchant doesn't always get paid correctly. Sometimes the bank pays too much, believe it or not. Sometimes the bank pays too little. Sometimes customers get charged twice because of network problems. Now these are basic fundamental things that, quite frankly, shouldn't exist. So what Kartuku has done, we've really, I guess, just to give a little bit of background of where we are, we've been focusing on shared infrastructure to tackle this problem, to be able to build an entire independent payment ecosystem that can be leveraged by a variety of banks. But what I'd like to talk about today is not about this. We are not only focusing at the top of the pyramid where we're serving some of the largest banks such as Bank Mandiri, Citibank, Bank Mega, CIMB Niaga, but we're also focusing on building custom merchant solutions for the likes of Carrefour, for Matahari, for Alfamart, the largest convenience store chains. But again, today, as in the spirit of a sort of a TED Talks idea capsule, I'm going to talk about something a little bit more revolutionary. I'm going to talk about them. This is something that is actually a common scene all across ASEAN. ASEAN actually is not dominated by modern retail. ASEAN is dominated by traditional retail. It's dominated by cash. Now, how do we empower them? Because today, these small mom and pops that exist, and this has been, I think, a common topic throughout all of our discussions, is for ASEAN to move forward, how do we empower the mom and pops? How do we empower the SMEs? Because today, if they keep moving hard goods, their business won't exist in 5 years. Okay. The modern retailers are coming in with more sophisticated distribution systems, distribution centers. They have pricing power over suppliers, over consumer goods companies, and these guys can't survive. These guys, if they don't change the way they do business, they'll inevitably die out. They will go extinct. So how do we solve this? How do we empower them? Here's another problem in Indonesia. Another problem, rewind about more than 12 months ago, a year ago, Indonesia's rupiah devalued by more than 25%, extremely rapidly, due to a very big current account deficit, fundamentally because of fuel subsidies being extremely inefficient in terms of over-expenditure on fuel subsidies. Now, there's a photo here of some subsidized fuel going into an Alphard, which in Indonesia costs about $100,000 to buy that car. That car does not need subsidized fuel. On top of that, you have another problem where there's not enough subsidized fuel to get to the people who need it. Every time the government talks about removing fuel subsidies, this is what happens. Potential civil unrest, which is why nobody wants to dare touch that. So it's something that is needed. It's something that needs to be provided to the poor, to those who really truly do need it to be able to sustain their basic day-to-day lives. This is not only unique to fuel. Another issue is also with rice. Again, another common problem across ASEAN. Okay. Being able to make sure there's enough rice on the table to have a decent meal and sustenance every day. And you have extremely inefficient processes. You have manual tellers who are still operating with calculators, pen and paper, and huge queues. So an extremely inefficient and extremely poor consumer experience as well. And we also do need to help in education. Not only about building schools, but helping kids get to schools. Just helping them get to schools. So giving these kinds of subsidies are something that's very strategic. Now, I'll loop that all back in with the fingerprint. Okay, so please bear with me. I'm on traditional retailers need to pivot their business to survive. Government subsidies need a new way to be able to reach those who need it. And fundamentally, the problem with a lot of these government subsidies comes down to targeting. Now, with biometrics, with biometric payment technology, this actually exists in many of the countries across ASEAN already. Singapore already has a national biometric database. Malaysia already has a national biometric database. Indonesia already has a national biometric database. This is not something that's pie in the sky. This is already being used for border control today. It's being used for immigration. So why don't we leverage the same technology, something that is unique to every person, something, a lot of people talk about mobile money or a mobile phone. You might leave your mobile phone at home. Unlikely at this point. Everyone's pretty attached to the mobile phone, but you're never going to leave your finger behind. Right? So this fingerprint is actually the key to identity validation. And being able to do identity validation at branches, so being able to enable a more efficient way, but more importantly, at the mom and pop. The one advantage that traditional retailers have over modern retail is distribution. They have national distribution channels, okay, that outpace any modern retail. They are already at the last mile. They already exist today at the last mile. And they already are performing one extremely important function. Cash in, cash out. They are managing cash. So our solutions today is not only about let's make things cashless, but let's be, more importantly, a catalyst. We don't need to replace cash just yet. We can make cash move around more efficiently, more effectively, and be able to not only do it in a way that is going to enable the government to target those who need it and have subsidy programs that are more effective, but also give the mom and pops a new revenue stream. Give mom and pops the opportunity to pivot their business towards financial services, towards government services. These are just some examples of some of the networks that we already have today. We're leveraging, for example, this is a top-up agent network. There are top-up agent networks all across Indonesia already. There's millions of them. Okay? These are existing distribution channels. This is not about reinventing the wheel. This is about empowering existing businesses, empowering them with the right technology that you can do two things now. With the biometric payment technology, you allow for secure remote identity validation. You no longer need a big branch with security guards, with CCTV cameras, to be able to just figure out, are you who you say you are? Fundamentally, that's what a teller does. A teller is going to be handling cash, and on top of that, they need to validate you are who you say you are. Now let's remove that identity validation function away from the teller, and let's put technology there instead. Let's put the same technology again that's being used for border control today. If it's good enough to get in and out of the country, it should be good enough to access your bank account. And what it also enables is a whole new focus of not only is it about traditional retail and leveraging them, but now you can start creating agent networks. You can have mobile tellers. You can have the bank or the government go to the individuals' homes, can go and be proactive at a fraction of the cost of a branch. And with this, hopefully we can enable the youth to get the education that I believe many of us have been so blessed to have, to be able to move forward, to be able to shape our leaders of the future, to give those who need the help, give them an efficient way to access that help, and to be able to do so in a way that doesn't break the state's budget. Thank you very much. Sure. Any questions from the audience? Going once, going twice.
Niki, is it already being implemented, these mobile tellers?
So we've already launched a project with one of the banks to enable pension disbursements. So this is not a concept. This is already in production today. So we're actually enabling disbursements of pension payments, and there's already, of course, future projects towards other government institutions that want help on the collection of, for example, healthcare insurance premiums. They also want, of course, on the disbursement side, it's primarily pension and subsidies. But I think what's interesting to note is this is not only unique to government. This can be used for banks. And we have enabled a few banks to go through a branchless banking concept this way, not the mobile money way. This is just another type of format. It's not saying this is better than mobile money, but it's just another strategy. So we've done it for banks to be able to mobilize their tellers. We've done it for the pension offices. And most importantly, we're rolling out today with one of the largest convenience store networks in Indonesia to be able to enable these disbursements being handled by a third-party merchant, and then enabling really the agent teller or an agent banking concept. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope that this can give just some ideas for some of the potential in other markets across ASEAN. While we're only in Indonesia today, we do have aspirations, of course, to be able to reach far beyond and across ASEAN. I think a lot of the issues we're targeting and solving today are not unique to Indonesia. In fact, I think these are very much the same problems in almost all the emerging markets across ASEAN. So thank you very much.
Thank you to Niki, Luhur of Kartuku for that presentation.